Start streaming. Are we showing up now? There we go. Hey, there we are. We are live. Alrighty then. Well, for those who don't know, I am the Blenster. I teach soldering all over the place, mostly at security conferences. I run various hardware hacking villages at Circle City Con, DerbyCon, Skydog Con, a couple of B-sides, Indy, Charleston, bunch of places. And I am going to be building the kit that is listed in the description below. It's on Amazon. Somebody showed it to me and I thought, hey, that's really cool. I'd love to build that. So I bought myself one and I'm going to put it together now. I have the instructions up on a screen over here. So I will be referring to those and trying to get this out. We will switch cameras if we need to get any closer views of the action, as it were. For now, I'm going to lay some stuff out. We're going to take a look at what's there, and we're going to get ready. Alright, so we have some parts in here. We have a bunch of our addressable RGB LEDs. Well, they're not really addressable. They are programmable. They might be addressable. I'm not sure how these work yet. They must be addressable for the animations to work. So we have some parts. We're going to deal with the LEDs. These LEDs last. We have a USB connection. We have an infrared. And here, let's switch cameras. This is our infrared receiver. So that is going to receive infrared signals from the remote control here, which is too big for that. But that's what's going to receive those. We have some contact switches. Couple of those. We have a push button plunger switch with, we have some what appear to be regular LEDs. And let's take a look at this versus one of the special ones. See if we can't see what makes these special on our magnification, other than the fact that they are smaller. Alright, it's hard to tell, but if you look in this corner you can see a little black speck. And that appears to be a microcontroller of some kind. So they have an embedded processor, and that's what's going to allow us to address them individually. We have a USB connector. That'll be fun to do. Relatively small pitch. Speaking of pitch, we have this IC holder and an IC, which is pretty big. We've got ourselves a lovely capacitor. Look at that. This is a polarized capacitor, so if we look on this side, we'll see that there is a negative stripe. And then we can see it's 220 microfarads, I guess. We have a buzzer. That'll be easy. It's only got 2 pins here. Oh, come on. And it does have a positive and a negative indicated, so we're going to need to pay attention to that, potentially. So other than that, this is pretty simple. There's no surface mount components. Let's go back to here. There we are. So here's the PCB we're going to be using. This is a laser cut piece of acrylic, which is going to be our guide for the LEDs when we are making them into the grid. Yeah. So let's see. The instructions want us to start with this USB, which is going to go in right here and be soldered in on this side. And this is a finer pitch than I would usually want to do on this particular iron tip. I should have left the finer tip on there. Come on now. Weird. Well, what I'm going to do to get that in place, move this over here. So I'm going to tack down the corners, and then I'm going to try to do the pins on the other side. Anytime you're dealing with a metal-bodied thing like this, and you want to put in these holding pins, which require a little more heat, you're going to definitely want to use the edge of the iron as much as possible. There we go. Let's switch to this. And you can see, here we are. We've got that in there pretty good. So now we need to flip it over. And do those pins. And for that, I'm going to switch to a finer solder. And hopefully you can see this happen, but it's going to be a little tricky with the larger tip. This is a component we definitely do not want to bridge on, so we want to be very precise. Alright, I think that's pretty good. I think I might touch up these 4 posts a little bit on this side, and I'm just going to round off the connections with a little extra solder, and that's mostly to make them look a little prettier more than anything else. So let's switch back to this view. Alright, so we have our USB connection in place. I'm going to check. I don't see any sort of shorts. Everybody looks happy. Although, I suppose we can check that real quick. So let's put it back over here and I'll show you how we're going to check that. We're going to switch to our multimeter. We're going to put it on continuity mode. There we go. Where when we touch the two, we get a reading and we get a tone. So now what we're going to look for is continuity. We should see continuity on the body. We should not see any continuity to any of these pins. Unless that pin is the ground. And it may well be. But just to double check, I'm going to clean that up a little bit just to make sure that there's nothing in between those. There isn't. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So let's go back here. We should be good. Let's go on to the next step. Oh, no, these are RGB LEDs as well, apparently. I don't see a microcontroller in them. It's a little bit hard to see through them. They're not clear. Oh, wait. Catch it at the right angle. Let's try that. Where's my... If we catch it at the right angle, so it's on this side, I think. How was I seeing that? Oh, yeah. It's really hard to see, but in there appears to be another microcontroller. Let me see if there are any questions. Hey. Hello, Edna and Killer Stink. And 6 people watching. Feel free to hit up the questions. I will eventually get to them. Alright, so let's put in our RGB LEDs. What is that positive for? Alright. There's a 5th LED here. I'm not sure where it goes. Maybe it's extra. Well, hopefully they're all the same. They all look the same. Soldering these will be easy. Let's switch to this view. That one. Nice small pads. We're going to use the edge of the iron, not the tip of the iron. We're going to get the heat on both the part and the pad. We're going to heat it up, and then we're going to touch the solder in there, and just like that, we're going to have a nice, cute little solder joint. Look at that, nice and perfect. Now we're going to hold the end of this and trim with our edge cutters, just like that, so it doesn't go flying off, get stuck in my beard. Let's do the same thing right here. Heat on one side, touching part and the pad. A little bit of tinning on there, not much at all. Look at that. Oh, I did the one you couldn't see. Let me do it over here where you can see. Yep. Come on. There we go. See that one, the solder didn't want to stick to the pad. It stuck up on the leg. Gotta watch for that and use the heat of the iron to draw it down to where you want it to be. The solder only wants to be where the heat is, so we gotta make it comfortable. Alright, one more of these. I'm gonna tin the iron just a touch. You can see how it pulls itself down to the pad. And just presto. Nice and easy, not too much. These pads are very small. I would not use this size pad in any of my beginner kits. This is perfectly fine if you are used to it, but I could see how that would be difficult. There we go, we've got all those. So let's switch views again, and now let's see what's next. Let me go over here. We're going to do the socket. This will be a fun one. So on the socket here, and on the circuit board, let's go to a closer view. We can see that there is a notch here, and if we look here, no notch. If we turn it around, we have a notch. So this notch needs to match up with this notch, and then we can seat it through all the holes. And this one has been bent in shipping, so give me a moment to unbend a couple of these. And then one trick I like to do, I like to bend over the pin, as you can see here, and here. So one on each corner. Now then, let's see, how much of this can I get on screen? Let's put that there. It's time to tack all these into place. So I'm going to tin the iron and just kind of put them all in place. And hopefully you can see how it goes. When you get the technique down, you can go through these pretty quickly. Just a matter of keeping the right amount of tinning on the iron. Making sure you have your heat on both the pad and the pin. And just go on down the line. Doop, doop. Oh, there we go. Doop, 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 doop. Myself a little more solder here. Boop, boop. Come on now. If at first it doesn't flow right, just add a little more heat. This is a rosin core solder, which means it has some flux in it, and that is helping manage our surface tension. Now I'm going to look at any of these that I think might not have quite enough on them. I'm going to come back and add a little more. We need to make sure that we have a good electrical and mechanical connection. So it is important to consider that. Alright, well that was easy. Not too much trouble. What's next? We have two tactile buttons. They're going to go in on this side here, like this. So let's give you a wider view of the soldering on this side. And again, I want to tin the iron just a little bit, not too much. There's definitely a Goldilocks amount. One of the mistakes I see people making all the time in my classes is using too much tinning. This is one of those gotchas that will even cause people who've been soldering for years to go, oh wait, I've been doing this wrong. Look at that. There we go. You can, let me, there we are. You can see those are beautiful. Next, we're going to be putting in the switch, which is going to go right here. You notice that it has two pins just to hold it in place mechanically, and then 6 that are mechanical and electrical. So I'm going to go ahead and do the mechanical ones first. There we go. Not quite enough. We don't want the solder to be too flat. We want to have a nice round solder ball. That's what we're aiming for. Alright, I'm going to take a moment to look for questions. I don't see any questions. So let's switch back to our wider angle. The next part appears to be our capacitor. We have a positive and a negative here. Positive again is going to be the long leg. The negative is indicated also with this line on the side of the silk screen. Actually, let's see if we can't do this super close up. There we go. Do the super close up view when we solder these. So we're going to put the edge of the iron in there, and there we go. If you end up a little too much, you can just draw it along the leg like that. It'll pull any excess right off the side, and then when we trim, like that, no one will ever know that we had that extra there. Our little secret, right? I actually want to trim that a little bit closer. Alright, we have our capacitor in place. We are rapidly running out of the easy stuff. We have our buzzer. It reminds us to line up the positive, so we shall do that. Let's go up to our close view again. There we are. Those are the two pins we're going to do. Come on now. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, I'm not. There we go. I just touched that up a little bit by applying some pressure and adding the heat back, and you can see that the legs now stick out a little bit further, so I can now trim them off. It wasn't quite flush with the board, and I decided to fix that, because this is something that will hopefully sit on my desk and amuse me, or maybe I'll give it to somebody. Either way, it needs to be good. Alright, it's time to do the infrared receiver. As we mentioned, that's this part here. But it does not go on this side of the board. It goes on this side of the board. And they want us, if I can get this lined up, they want us to bend it over like this. So it's going to sit like that. Which means when we come over here, let's see here, there we go. We're going to bend our legs out like this and just pop them in place. Now the PCB is rocking a little bit. That happens when it becomes uneven. And it's a good time to remind you that you want to use very little pressure when you're using the soldering iron. You don't need any pressure. If you're putting a lot of pressure on, you're going to have a hard time. It's just going to be not fun for you. So let's trim these. Try to get as much of this as I can on camera for you all. Do we have any questions? No questions still. Alright, I'm getting a video resolution notice, but I'll fix that later. We're already streaming. I think it's too late. Alright, let's see here. We can install the IC now. We want to pay attention to our visual cues. Let's look again on our high res close up. There we go. Notice that we have a notch here. We also have that notch on the microcontroller and not on the other side. So we need to make sure we put it in the correct direction. Notice that the legs are spread a little too wide. That's actually not uncommon. One of the reasons why when we use these in our kits, I will almost always do this installation myself. This is something that can be screwed up super easily and is non-trivial to fix. Alright. Beautiful. We've got our notches lined up correctly and everything. So, turn on power supply. Alright, it wants us to plug it in to some power and give it a test, see if we see some music and some lights. So, let's see here. I have a free USB right there. And we have some lights. That's good news. Alright, let's see here. Get this in. Let's see if I can get this on camera better. Actually, you know what? Let's switch cameras. Because that USB cable is short. Alright, so we're getting multiple colors. And if we change the song with the right button, and we can turn the music off. Yeah, I think we are doing good. So I'm going to unplug this and say, hey, success, phase 1. Alright. So first step, we need to install the screws on the template. They go in these 4 corners. So we will put those in place. Alright, we now have our template. Let's put that right there, put that right there, get that out of the way. Alright, we have our template. We need to bend the short and the long legs on our 3mm LEDs in different ways. So the long leg, as you may recall, is the positive, and the short is the negative. And just to make things a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to draw a black line on the positives with a marker, which can be removed later or won't be noticed later. It shouldn't interfere with my soldering, but will help me understand which one's longer and shorter without having to measure them when I have them bent in different directions. Right now it's really obvious which is which, but I suspect as I make progress on this, it's going to get less obvious. And hopefully future Ben will thank me for this. Alright. The short's going out in one direction. The long's going out in another direction, but it needs to have a 90-degree bend in it to give it a little bit of space. So the long one, if I'm looking at this correctly, is getting bent in this direction, and the short one is being bent in this direction. So if I'm looking at this correctly, we need this space, this curve here, so that we don't short. Let's see here, it looks like the long pin is going to be here. The short pin is going to be there. And we're going to need to make a connection between them. So let's switch to the higher res close-up, so we can see this happening. Alright, so just so you can see, this is the connection we're making. And for fun, we'll put a toothpick so you can see that there's space between them vertically. It's hard to tell on that camera view, but that's what we're looking at. So what we need to do is line that up like that so it looks super pretty. We're going to put a little bit of tinning on here, and we're going to bring in the heat on one side and the solder on the other, and see how that flows together beautifully. And now they are connected. Let's see if I can get this on camera. Going the wrong way. They are nicely connected. And the goal is to make these connections as pretty as possible, because this is a demonstration piece. It's going to be on the desk. So let's switch to the wider view so you can see as this pattern gets replicated. We're going to bend you right there. We're going to bend you right there. And you should fit right on top of there. Just like that. And, oh, come on. We'll line you up a little bit nicer. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. So now we need one more in this. We're going to bend at the same spot. Now, just to show you what I'm doing, let's go to this camera. There we go. So the long leg, you can see, has the marker on there. So what I'm going to do is at this standoff mark is where I'm bending the long leg, and it's going out towards the black mark I made. And then the other side is being bent let's see if I can get this back on camera. So the other side's being bent straight down at the bottom of the LED, and the other one, as you can see, is up a bit at that standoff. Hopefully that makes it clear. Now when we get this in here, we can line it up just right. And voila. Now we have 4 connected right through here in a nice straight line. And we have our other connection going right here. So now it's just a matter of doing that some more. Long leg gets bent down this way. Short leg gets bent down that way. And this time we want the short legs to line up as well, because now they need to be connected. So I'm going to have to come in, and here's where it's going to get a little bit tricky. There we go, because I need to come clean the tip. Anytime the tip gets oxidized, go ahead and clean it. We'll come down there. There we go. Now we have one connection. Now we're going to put the next one in place. It needs to connect both here and here. So we'll line this one up first. You see we've got that lined up. There we go. Now this one needs to be lined up as well. And we're going to get that as close to on top of that as we can. Alright, and if it doesn't want to cooperate, I happen to have somewhere in my mess of a desk a little clip that I can put on there, specifically designed for that. Where is it? You know what? It might be actually put away, if you can believe that. I want you to be right a little bit more. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to solder it. Then once I have the connection soldered, I'm going to heat it up a little bit with the iron and see if I can't finagle a slightly better looking joint. Or, you know, I'll make it worse. That is also a thing I could do. No, we want, yeah, that's a better view. There we go. Alright, so you can see we are connecting the long legs this way, we're connecting the short legs that way. And in this way we are making ourselves a grid. Time to connect the long legs. Beautiful. Very little solder needed there. There we go. Time to connect the short legs. There we go. Very little solder needed there. And if I remove this from the template, you can see we have a nice grid coming together. So now it's just a matter of rinse and repeat a whole bunch of times. And given the number of LEDs in this bag, a whole bunch of times. I'm not going to bother to mark the long legs now that I have the process in mind. I have a pretty good idea of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I don't think I'm going to mess it up enough that I need to mark the long legs. Famous last words. We'll see if it holds true for the rest of this kit. Shall we? Oh, there's a gap in there. I don't want a gap in there. I want you to be just nice and snug. There we go. A little bit of tension does not hurt my feelings. There we go. Just a tiny bit of solder. Now this needs to be lined up over here. As such, there we go. Beautiful. Wonder if I can't straighten that up just a touch. I'm going to dry the iron and just take some of this excess solder off with the dry iron. Because this needs to look clean. Long leg gets bent that way. Short leg gets bent that way. Oh, no, short leg gets bent closer to the body. Oh, that's a little bit mangled. So if we can't massage that into a little bit straighter. There we go. One tricky thing about this is I'm probably using this template upside down, to be honest. I'll bet I would have a little bit better luck, it occurs to me, if the feet were that way. Alright, yeah, that's probably what they had in mind, and indeed that's what they show in the instructions, if I were clever enough to look at them a little more often. Let's see if we have any questions. No new questions. Feel free to answer questions. Ask questions. I will try to answer them. We're just going to continue filling in LEDs. We have, I think, 4 of these to make. So it's going to be a hot minute. Let's put that in there. There we go, got the negative in place. I'm not getting that lined up as pretty as I would like. Come on now. There we go. There we are. That seems to be a good connection. Couple more LEDs. We're making good progress. This one's going to fit right here. Oh, come on now, stay in the hole. Have a little Happy Gilmore moment. Don't you want to be in the home? There we go. Dry the iron and take some of that excess solder off. Alright, this will be the last one on our 3rd row. Meaning we are 75% done with the first 25% of the grid, if my math is correct. Now that we've got that done, let's get this one lined up. Oh, that's pretty. Beautiful. So again, it may be a little bit hard to see, but there's a bit of space between here, between these two. So there's not going to be any shorting. We need 4 more LEDs. We're going to start again with the long leg, bending at that standoff mark in the leg. And we're just going to put that down right there. Get it lined up. Presto. Now we can straighten that up a bit. Long leg first, bent at that juncture. short leg second, bent at the base. Get that in the template. Alright, now get our long legs lined up. There we go. Now that they're lined up pretty, we're just going to beautifully solder those together. Look at that. 2 more. Then we get to do this 3 more times. Making our happy little LEDs in our happy little homes. Alright, I'm going to once again do the short leg first over here. I'm finding that that's a little bit easier for me to line up first rather than second. Since it's kind of buried in there, it's easier to line this long leg up. Out here I have more room to get to it. Look at that. Last one on this grid. Using my thumb to form that 90 degree I need to put in there. Let's line that up. Oh, beautiful. I'll need to too much solder. And that's where the dry iron comes in. It'll suck it up. Alright, now I need to match this up, and there we go. Beautiful. I think a pair of needle nose pliers might also help with bending these just right. But so far, I'm pretty happy. I think that's a pretty nice looking pattern. So it's not too shabby. Only a couple of spots where it's not quite as nice as I would like it. But I don't think anyone's going to be looking at it that close. We need to make a couple more of these, I believe. Let's take a look at the instructions. Test by multimeter. Well, I can do that. Let's put this over here. Let's put this here. Let's put this in diode mode. The short legs are going to be the negative. And oh, look at that. That lights up. That lights up. That lights up. That lights up. You can see how they are addressed now. So they're not being addressed through an internal state of knowing where they are in a string. They're being addressed via this grid. But the color information is still being transmitted to them. But that can be transmitted along the grid as well as the on-off. So that is how that is going to be done. Very interesting. Alright, and I can kind of see the black mark on there, so I will probably take a Q-tip and some rubbing alcohol or acetone, probably acetone, and wipe that off later. But for now, we need to do a couple more of these. So, let's get busy. I'm going to check for questions. See if there are any questions while we're working on this. Scrap Arcade, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for your kind words. Hope you're enjoying the show. Let's see here. This was this way. Yes, so this is going to go here. That's going to go there. Alright, long leg. Gonna be bent on my fingernail there. The short leg gonna be bent on the base there. We're gonna line these up like so. There we go. Clean the tip. Tin the tip. Solder on the other side. Make it work to get to that heat. Oh, they are just going all over the place. There we go. Nice and straight, please. Alright, let's make those straight. Long leg bent on my fingernail, short leg bent at the base. Once again, lining up the long legs. And tinning on one side, heat on the other. Try to make it look as straight as possible. Last one in this line. Now on these, I only care about the positives being straight while I'm soldering them, but the negatives are coming in, so I'm going to straighten those up a little bit. There we go. It's time for our second row. Once again, we're bending the positive on my fingernail and the negative at the base. We want them to be at a nice 90 degrees to each other. And having done the first one, I think we have figured out that the negatives are easier to do first. Look at that, beautiful. Now it's just a lot of rinse and repeat. I'm going to go a little bit quicker now. I'll get in there. There we go. And we're going to get this lined up down there where it's nice and it's nice and easy. And then this is up top and easier to manipulate, so we're going to do it second on the positive. So if you're following along at home, hopefully you are learning from my progress. Sometimes the positive needs to be bent sideways a little bit so that it lines up a little bit cleaner. But hey, there we go. Long leg. Short leg. Yeah, needle nose pliers would definitely be a good tip for these. This kit, I may make that my pinned comment. Use or edit the description and add use needle nose pliers. for best results. Alright, my positive did not want to line up, so let's encourage it now. Alright, come on now. There we go. Bend it around a little bit, it'll get there. Let a little bit of solder sit in there. Bam. So for those of you wondering about the hashtag Scrap Arcade used, Make Kindness Normal is a project I've been working on with several other people in the community. And the idea is we say nice things to each other, and we try to set a good example and be positive and uplifting, and try to skip the negative comments we might want to make, we might have made before, and instead try to make our online communities a better place for everyone to be. So it's always nice when someone joins me on that, or joins us. It's hardly me alone. I picked it up from others and thought, hey, that's really cool, and they seem to be making progress at it. Wonder if they'll let me help. And they were like, of course, please. So I started, and you can too. Just take a moment to be mindful of your interactions with people. You never know what's going on in their world. You know, I'd like a little bit more. Going all the way back there. Make that a little bit stronger. Alright, time to line the positive up. You don't have to be as picky as I am about this on yours. All they need to do is connect. So you could easily connect it to the side or whatever. I am just being a little extra persnickety because I want to be. And because I have enough practice doing this particular skill that I think I can pull it off without spending too much time on it. I've been soldering since I was a kid, but to be completely honest with you, I learned a lot about soldering by teaching other people to solder. My next free soldering workshop will be at Circle City Con, which is sponsored by Cyber City Circuits. I have their banner on this live stream. They're not technically sponsoring this, I don't think. I haven't formally spoken to them about that, but you know, they're awesome people, and they want to help me make content to help you all learn how to do cool stuff like this. So anybody who's willing to invest in me, I'm willing to invest in them. I think that's just a good way to be. So if you need PCB assembly work, if you've got a really cool project you want built but you don't know how to do it, or you don't want to send it to China, you want to have someone in the US who you can call during regular business hours and have a conversation with. And some people, you know, that's a constraint for them. Then they are the people I recommend. Go to Cyber City cybercitycircuits.com. And tell them Blenster sent you, and maybe they will actually start sponsoring the live streams as well. That way I can afford to buy more of these kits to put together for y'all. This one was, fortunately, it was only like 15 bucks. Alright. Long leg, short leg. Whole lot of second verse, same as the first, going on with this kit. But you know, with any kit of this type, that's just the way it's going to be. Oh, that's not as straight as it could have been. There we are. Line that up. I don't think you saw that on camera, but I just pulled in some excess solder back along the back side of this joint. Heat and surface area. Surface tension, I'm sorry. Not surface area, surface tension. Same sort of capillary action that you see in paper towels will apply in soldering as well. Same physics. Liquids flowing into crevices. Oh, I forgot to do that side, didn't I? Well, it's not going to work if I don't. So let's there we go. And beautiful. Alright, last one on this grid. Once again, going to do the negative. You are not quite lined up. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. Get that perfectly lined up. A little bit of solder in there. And just like that, we have another grid. So let's put this grid here. Let's get our multimeter. Let's put it in diode test mode. And let's test our diodes. So I'm going to look at that. We got one lit up. These are all working. Perfect. Alright, so that is a second row. It's time to do a third row. And we're going to line these up as close to 90 degrees as we can while freehanding it. Do. Normally when I'm doing a project like this, I'd be listening to music or watching something like the original Robotech. So that's a fun show for me to watch while I'm working because I've seen it so many times. There we go. Alrighty. Line things up a little bit better as we go. Oop. You bend that way, you bend that way. Line up. Beautiful. Long leg, short leg. Try to get these as close to 90 as I can. Line that up and oh, look at that. Lovely. It's a little warm, it turns out. Just making sure I knew. Well, I know now. Oh, beautiful. I love it when they line up that nicely. Look at that. Getting halfway decent at this now. You'll probably be able to tell the difference between the first one I made and the last one I made. Isn't that how it always goes on a project? You get done with the project and you're like, man, if I had to do it again, it would be so much better. There we go. Look at that. Just beautifully lined up. For those who are wondering, I'm using a Hako or Hako, I forget how they pronounce it, FX888D soldering iron, which is one of my favorites. I own a couple. They are around $80 to $100, so they are not the cheapest of tools, but they've been absolutely rock solid in all of our workshops over the many years that I've been teaching. None of our students have managed to destroy them, unlike the $20 Amazon specials I've seen purchased for some of the events I've taught at, such as here at the Louisville Free Public Library. And, you know, it's not their fault. They don't have the budget. And they're not storing them. Alright, I'm talking and I'm screwing it up. So let me fix this real quick. Alright, that's better. Sorry. Those had plastic bodies and they were absolutely destroyed by the students, but for home use they'd probably be fine. You do want a regulated iron, not an unregulated iron, and preferably with at least some sort of temperature setting, even if it's not a specific degree setting, something that allows you to go warmer and colder, relatively speaking, because that level of control will be very handy, and it indicates that the iron is regulated. An unregulated iron, such as the cheap one that you just plug into the wall and it heats up, will make this job more difficult because it will change its temperature. It will get so hot that it damages components, but then you'll start to solder and it'll lose a bunch of heat to the solder as it begins to do its work, and then it'll get too cold to solder. So then you will be frustrated trying to get the tempo down, and you can't get the tempo down because the iron's not working reliably. So I highly recommend against those because they are a pain to use, even if you know what you're doing, as I would like to argue I do. I find them unpleasant. I can't imagine a student finds them anything more than maddening. Why is it not doing the thing that it's supposed to be doing? I'm watching Blenster do it and it's just super easy. Look at him breeze through that. Well, I am using a $100 soldering iron, and in this case the tool does make a difference. So if this isn't as easy for you, keep in mind that you may have a tool that is not as easy to use as this. Since I do a lot of this, it's worth the money to me to have a good one. That said, if you do a couple of kits and you're like, hey, this is a lot of fun, I find it very relaxing, plus I get a cool thing, and now I can buy these things, and I get a ton of fun putting it together, and I can give it to somebody and tell them I made it for them and customize it for them or in some way or whatever, win friggin' win. Then you might be interested in definitely having a nicer iron for yourself so you can justify all the time you're spending on making other people gifts. Had a young lady come up to us at B-Sides Charleston. Her mother had taken our class up at Skydog Con, and she came up to us, it's the Hat and I, and her first words to us were, "My mom would not shut up about you all. What's the big deal?" So we invited her to do our class, and she bought one of the small 3 or 4 LED kits. And she took the class and seemed to enjoy it, and she was like, alright, I'll do the medium one. And she bought one of the medium kits. Oh, come, you need to be, there we go. And she did that, and she was like, alright, that was easy. I want one of your blinker kits. Those are the more advanced ones that we sell. Still very beginner friendly. Just more parts. More to do. And she got that done, and then she said, I'm going to build a set for my boyfriend. So she bought 3 more and built them for him. I think she did one for another family member. She did a bunch of them. And every once in a while I wonder if she's off somewhere soldering somewhere today. I hope so. If she's kept up by now, she might be able to teach the class. come on, line up. Oh, beautiful. There we go. Get it to line up just perfectly. Look at that. One more row to do on this one, and then we have one more to do in the cube, I believe. I believe it's 4x4. Alrighty. Look at that. There we go. Do our negative first again. Now I'm going to prime my positive into shape. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. There we go. A little extra solder on that one. There we go. Get the positive. Bend it on my fingernail. Negative. That's too far. There we go. Get you lined up. A little extra on there. That's going to be unsightly. Alright, get the positive lined up. Yeah, much easier to do this up here than it is to do it first and then the negative. Last one for this grid. Get this lined up. And there we go. Get those lined up. Beautiful. I'm banging them out now. Let's test it out. And we can tell which ones are which. The negatives are up high, the positives are down low. Oh, that's not super bright. I guess it's... That's, yeah. Alright, the 15-volt range is too much. Alright, yeah, it's just where it is in the animation. Kind of funky, but there we go. 3 out of 4 done. We're making progress. And soon we'll get to connect this all together and make it sing and dance. Alrighty. Now these being the first connection, we gotta line them up manually. So I'm holding onto it with my fingers just to make sure that I get them in a nice line. Once I get them in a nice line, it'll be easier to add the next ones and get them in a nice line. So we can see this is out a bit, but that's fine. What we're going to do is connect this, and now we can bend. Oh, well, we can wait for it to actually solidify, maybe. There we go. Alright, now that it's solidified, I can bend this in so these are a little bit straighter, a little more even. There we go. So we've got those lined up. Time to add row number 2. There we go. Picking up some steam now. We're doing position 2 of 2. Let's get you lined up down here on the negative. There we go. Get you lined up here on the positive. Alright, get the positive lined up now. There we go. Do. Get our negative lined up. Come back and get our positive lined up. There we go. Look at that. The closer to a straight line it is, the happier I'm going to be. We are in the rinse and repeat section. Sorry, it's going to be a little more boring. If you're interested in this sort of content and didn't come here from Twitter, I post all sorts of cool stuff there at Blenster, as I am the Blenster. There's some tech stuff, some information security stuff. lined up. There we go. Kind of want to line this up just a touch better. There we go. Positive, negative. Oh, my tip's getting dirty. Never hesitate to clean your tip and retin it. A couple of seconds there can save you 30 seconds of frustration later when it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Why won't the solder go where I want the solder to go? Well, maybe your tip's dirty. Could be what happened. There we go. Look at that. Just beautifully lined up. Get them lined up just right. And they just... Here, let me show you on the close-up. Let's go to the Pixel 2. You look, see how just nice and lined up those are. That's what we're looking for. That's the long leg. You definitely do not want to lose track of which one's the long and the short. You get them backwards, you're going to break your grid. You break your grid, you're going to have to undo a lot of hard work. I'm very glad I haven't distracted myself enough that I've done that yet. All of them have tested good, but we shall see. It's entirely possible I will get one of these backwards while I'm rambling on about whatever. There we go, look at that. Now we're going to come up here. There we go, got that lined up. Beautiful. Two more. Look at that. We're almost done. The repetitive part is getting to be over. I think there's only two more. We need yeah. Line you up. Oh, getting dirty again. A little bit of tinning. There we go. Look at that. excess off there. Now we can bend you into line. Yes, definitely. Look at that. Last one. And we can test this to make sure it works. And if it does, it's time for the assembly. Get it on the get this cube onto the base and see if it all works. Let's see if we have the lovely patterns we're supposed to be having. Alright. Well, whew. Let's get our multimeter out, put it on diode test mode. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Excellent. So all of the LEDs in all of the grids have been tested. We have plenty of spare LEDs. We'll find a project for them later, I'm sure. Let's line these up the same way. And I tell you what, while I'm here, let's take a Q-tip and I got some acetone here. Let's erase that marker I put on there. So I'm just going to take the acetone and wipe it, and you can see it's just cleaning it right off. Like it was never there. Alright, it's drying out a bit. Let's Alright. Like it was never there. Put the acetone away. For the fumes, make this a more fun or loopy experience. I don't know if fun is the right word. Alright, where we go next in the instructions? We have those. We have Alright, we need to take these standoffs off the acrylic template and put them here. And we're going to form little legs on the PCB instead. Nice little bit of reuse there. So we're going to screw these on. And this will also make the PCB easier to solder to, as it'll be on a more stable base. Well, that's actually in the way. I'll put you out of the way. Alright, we've got our stands on there. We want negative pole 90° inward. So our long legs are here. Let me see if alright, so this is going to go in here. These need to go this way. Actually, let's just do this. Yeah, needle nose would definitely be a nice thing to have on my desk right now. Should have grabbed some, but I didn't. Marked B. Do not tilt. Alright, this is going to be a fun bit of soldering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do each side real quick. I want this to not move too much. Come now. I need you to not do that, please. If you have an extra set of hands or something you can prop things up with, here's a good spot to use it. I'm going to be looking for a very consistent depth on this, so I'm looking to keep it at a very specific amount of penetration in the PCB. So alright, so what I'm going to do now is heat this up and move it to where I want it to be, which is just barely through the PCB. Then I'm going to line the rest of these up. Push them through. Turn it over, and I'm going to get to this one on the other side. And I want it just barely through. Just like that. And I'm going to do it. If I can get that in there It's going to be slightly tricky. And now I can come back and do the middle ones, and they should be fine. Alright. So the goal is to keep this height at a certain level. Huh. Looks like we're going common cathode for this. So it looks like we're once again putting the positive pins, which we'll recognize as the ones that have the bends in them out here. And I think we can get the negative pins to hold, perhaps to help hold it in the right position. We want position B again. Yeah. So let's get this to the right height where they look like they're all lined up. And now that we have them all lined up, there we go. Now they're in position. I'm going to do this away from the camera, sorry, but it's complicated. If you do this yourself, you'll see why I'm doing it this way. It's just too big a pain. Alright, so now we want to make sure that these are spaced relative, and we want these negatives to line up like this. And we're going to join them together again. There we go. This one is a little too high. There we go. There we go. And last but hardly least, there we go. Alright. So we have these negatives connected here, 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 and here. I believe that's where they're supposed to be. Uh-huh. Alright, so now we need 4 wires. Let me see if there are any questions real quick. No new questions. One person still hanging out with me. Thank you for chilling. I know it's kind of boring. So it looks like we can now trim this. And trim these. And we're going to connect these with wires. As seen here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. So they gave us a little bit of wire. And we're going to be using this wire to connect from these 4 pins up to these 4 levels. It looks like there's plenty of wire, but I'm still going to be cautious. So our first one is going to go in here. Whoops. The wire is smaller than the hole in the PCB. That is an interesting design choice. I mean, it's a way of doing this. Alright, so you can see the solder sticking to the iron, not going in the pad. There we go. Got it that time. So let's trim the excess off there. Let's bring the wire up here. How do we want to do this? Alright, so it only needs to be about yay long. So we can cut some of this extra off. Let's see if my fancy wire strippers will work on this or not. Well, what's the worst that could happen? There we go. There we go. One is connected. They're no longer working. Let's do the second row, shall we? Put that through the hole. If we can get it to stay in the hole, that would be handy. Don't know about y'all, but I'd appreciate it. There we go. This needs to go up about yay far. We can tuck it through here. Alright, now we can solder that into place. There we are. Our second wire is now in place. Time to put in a third. And I'm finding I can strip this with my fingernails just fine, since the wire strippers are not helping. There we go. Look at that. That needs to go up to about there. Tuck it through there. Wrap it around here. And a little bit of solder to make it happy. Alrighty. First three are done. Time for the last one, and I think we're going to test it again. I want to see if this is working. Loop through this through here. Thread, thread, thread. Strip it off. Wrap it around. There we go, look at that. They appear to be oh yeah, look at that. That's cool. Alright, so those are working. It looks like we need to repeat that process with the other set. Same thing again. Alright, yep. Cut off the extra, wire up the 4, and then we're done. So, we're in the home stretch. We simply need to put this right here. Get this to the right height, which is much easier now that this is holding itself in place. Look at that. There we are. We can flip it over. Get that at the same height. Oh. Meow. Oh, somebody wants some attention because I've been up here entirely too long playing on my bench and not petting her. Oh. Do you want some lovin's? Do you want some lovin's? Oh. Is there not enough black hair on my white lab coat? No. You're still loved, darling. I'm almost done. Alright. Oh, nuts. I'm going to have to solder those middle two on the back. The IC is covering them, so I'm going to solder them this way, which I think will work just fine. Alright, so now we need to bend our negatives back the same way we did before. Because they will be interfacing once again with this. And remember, we can spot the positives because they're the ones with this bend in it. So I think, whoops, I'm going to get you to the correct height like that. Yeah. Do the same thing on this side. Why not? I'm going to solder it. I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to remove the heat. I'm just going to hold it in place. And then voila. Now I can do the middle ones. Well, that's a handy tip. And now I can do all of our negative joints. There's one. There we go. Let's get this a little bit closer. There we go. That can go right there. Almost done. We got 4 more wires. Last one of these. Look at that. There we go. Beautiful. Now we can trim these off. I'm going to hold on to it with my fingers because I don't want it to go anywhere. They will leave with some authority if you don't. We're going to make sure that these are all spaced out the right way. Wow, almost done, Donna. Yeah, look at that. 4 more wires. And then I'll be done, and I will make some food, and you can get on my lap, and I will give you lots of pettings. Yeah, soon. Oh, who's a good girl? Yes, you're the good girl. Oh, these are a little bit different. Let me make sure I got them. One is on this side. There we are. Trim the excess off. That only needs to go to about there. that wrapped around there. Get that soldered in place. Look at that. Easy peasy. Wow. Oh, I know. I'm almost done, darling. 3 more wires. Let's see if I can bend that wire so it hangs on. There we go. Hang into place. That'll make it a little bit easier to solder. Now we can trim that excess off and bring this up to about there, which is where it needs to be. Run it through there. Trim off a little bit of the wire and wrap that around. There we go. How long have we been doing this? 2 hours. Well, that's not too bad, considering how many of these LEDs we had to do. Time for number 3. Loop these through there. There we are. Wrap this wire around that post. Come on, wrap around. Pretty please. Get my tweezers involved. There we go. And one way or another, I'm going to make you work. That's just how this works. I don't lose. There we go. Any questions? We're about to wrap up here. My one viewer. Alright, I'm going to put in the last wire. And then I'm going to try to get it in focus. We'll get it working and I'll get it in focus for you. You can see that it's doing its thing. Hopefully correctly. Let's trim those off. Alright, now you need to go to about there. That needs to come up to here. Strip that bit off. Wrap it around. Oh, and I think we're finally done. So, put our wire stripper back here. See if we can stretch this enough. Look at that. So it is definitely doing its thing. Very cool. Alright, well with that, I am going to say good night. Gonna go get some dinner. Hope you had a good time. I hope this helped, and I will catch you later.